banned away the Lilia, the Tristana, and the Nocturne. EDG go with the Aphelios and the Jinx, the Gragas. First pick Thresh. This is kind of something we noticed because if you give away something like the Udyr, they just pick the Hecarim, so you're guaranteeing yourself a solid support.
It's just interesting to see, because honestly, like, I know Thresh has been really, really good. You've got the engage set up for the bot side. You've also got the disengage tools for some of these more vulnerable AD carries. But honestly, with the likes of the Jinx and the Aphelios off the board, it's surprised to see that high priority. I think I nearly would have preferred going towards the jungle pick, but as we talked about for Beishang has looked absolutely amazing onto the picks like the Udyr. He's more than happy to play these, and especially with the Hecarim, who takes a little bit of time to ramp up, or at least have a big skirmish heavy, or an impact in those skirmishes even. I think this works going towards the Udyr here for Beishang.
We'll see what he wants to go for. Of course, the Hecarim is a very good engage tool that you get. You pair that up with something like the Alistar. You've got some nice dive buddies to go in either in the laning phase, or of course, around those team fights, of course. We'll see what W want to go for. I'd be very surprised if they don't lock in the Udyr, which they do. Udyr has literally been the pick for Beishang, and Caitlyn here now for Jiumeng. So this is kind of putting a little bit of pressure on EDG. They kind of either have to pick in a solo lane, or they have to try and take an early ADC rotation, or fear the bans.
Yeah, I mean, it also kind of dissuades you from going towards stuff like Kaisa, because you can get so much punishment done with this Caitlyn. And honestly, I've been talking to Munch, obviously, who plays a lot of AD carry. I've kind of just been waiting for Caitlyn to come back into the meta, because the combos have been reignited with the Gale Force. You can get so much burst damage off if you can get in the likes of a trap down into a Gale Force headshot. All this burst damage comes through very, very quickly. So for Viper, he will have his work cut out. If a hook lands at any point in time, he's just dead.
Yep, and especially when you're looking at kind of like short-range ADCs like Kaisa, like you said, it's just a very, very nice counter, but also just the way the meta is going right now. There is so much accelerated gold going into the pockets of ADCs that it's so easy for them to kind of get to those 3-item spikes. Caitlyn is one of those people that gets the first item, has a little bit of a trough, and then comes back online a third.
The big thing here, though, is that Caitlyn is a champion that does need resources to play her game. She wants to push in, she wants to go and start to chip away at that turret lane, as you're pointing out. So this means that Beishang will be very much focused around this bottom side. So I wouldn't be surprised to see if this game Breathe actually steps away from the carries that we've been talking about, and instead opts in towards this weak side top lane and allowing Beishang to play down towards this bottom lane. Then just get like a strong front line where you can go towards, hey look, we got the Udyr, we've also got something like well, I was going to say the Gragas who's banned away, but at least something that provides a front line. Shanks can go on towards the Orianna, very simple mid laner to work with, and then you end up in a situation with this super strong Caitlyn, super strong front to back, and that's where WE can find their comfort.
Well, we'll see now. EDG looking like they're going to try and maybe lock in Scout's pick here before they can leave that one over to Shanks. Of course, obviously, you're looking at a lot of these bans. Jace, the Twisted Fate, the Silas, the Azir. These are all big playmakers, big lane kind of, you know, things that can make things happen either around their own lane or side lanes as well. So for TWE, where do they want to try and take this one here? The Viktor's still available. They obviously hovered to Zoe. They've got options.
I kind of like the Viktor pick here, because the zone control that the Viktor offers is going to be great for something like the dive composition EDG is going for. Because when you think like, hey, Hecarim leading the charge, coming in with the Shockwave, or the Alistar going in, same idea. Hell, just putting this big ol' you do not pass this area with the Viktor W is going to work out great. And as well, just champions that are enabled by this engage tools coming through from EDG, like the Renekton, are going to work wonders. So I love what WE have gone for here and kind of responding against EDG. They just need to make sure that they're setting up correctly for team fights and not allowing EDG multiple flank routes for this dive heavy team.
Yeah, and something that people kind of obviously, you know, mention, but it's kind of never really thought about in the grand scheme of things. Like, Caitlyn is, in her sense, a control AD carry. Yeah. She puts down 5 traps. It's like, good, you can't go in this area. And that just frees up something like a Viktor to say, right, I don't need to worry about that area. I can set up here, because if they walk on these traps, we get double lockdown. We just burn whoever the hell it is. So you have to be so careful of how you approach these fights from EDG. But they've gone with the Gnar Renekton, a tale as old as time in that top side. Does Renekton counter him? Does Gnar counter Renekton? Who knows? All we know is that LS is sad.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of true. But I think, honestly, if I'm looking at this in the grand scheme of things, it's like, look, We talked about how important this bot lane is going to be. I think WE have very clearly like doubled down on that. And when we look across at EDG, it will certainly be on Jiejie to go, okay, I need to try and have some sort of impact. I can set up super well with this Alistar to try and turn around some of these ganks, especially if WE overextend. But we need to see if they can stop this over-aggression, this heavy pushing bot lane from WE from getting low.
For Team WE, I see the Renekton and I immediately think flanks. Flanks on flanks on flanks. That is going to be the key thing here now for Team WE if they want to try and make these ones work. Not only that, but we talked about the control. You got to be at the objective first. You have to set up the control before you can then use the power that it gives you.
Yeah, I think there's two big things. You don't really need to have Renekton play the engage tool here just because of the range that's available on the WE side. Like, when you got a Viktor who can poke, you got Caitlyn who's hitting you from 10 million miles away, like, you're just fine. Like, there's no one really to respond unless, like, Orianna pulls off some crazy shockwave, but that's so hard to do. So honestly, you're, as Renekton, just playing frontline, buying space for the Caitlyn and Viktor, and if you get this engage tool, it's like, right, I'm up, I'm bodyguard here, stopping the rest of the dive from following through. So I think in that regard, that's how WE want to play this. Just slow, vision, as you pointed out, Penguin, a massive, massive factor. And especially when you're looking towards like these early dragons, making sure that there's no way that anyone on EDG can flank in behind the back of dragon, catch WE unaware, or any of these other shenanigans that they can go for.
We'll see what way they want to go for it. I'm very curious the pathing of the two junglers. Jiejie versus Beishang. Jiejie's had a couple of little lackluster performances of recent date, but he is still a top caliber one. And as we said already in the pregame, Beishang is on the list for one of the best junglers in a sea of junglers that you could honestly put into that category. So we'll see what way it works out for both of them, what way they can influence these lanes. I can't overestimate how important this game can be for the grand scheme of things. This could honestly completely reshape what way we're looking at it for playoffs.
100%. And I think at least when we're looking at comfort, I will say, it feels very much at home for EDG. Like, you do have a composition that has a very strong mid game, likes these front to back styles, and certainly Viper, I think, has been one of the best Kaisas we've had in the league right now. It's been absolutely insane.
Yeah, well, just a quick announcement to you guys at home. We are going to have a quick remake of picks and bans. Unfortunately, one of the champions was not able to be traded, so we're going to have the exact same picks, the exact same bans, and they're going to hopefully get us onto the Rift as soon as possible. Of course, we do apologize for the delay. Want to make sure everyone's playing at peak performance, and if you're in top lane and you got yourself an Alistar, it's probably not the best thing for you.
I mean, Triforce Alistar was a thing back in the day.
Static shiv.
Yes.
Static shiv. When you could get the auto cancel, so you could get the double knock. Yeah. That was so stupid.
But yeah, look, either way, I think when we come into this, as we said, like, EDG certainly playing a more mid-game focused team fight. You look at like Kaisa spiking off the Gale Force into the Collector, going to work out really well for them. Certainly when you look towards their mid lane as well, like Shanks being, or sorry, not Shanks, even Scout. Thank you, God, got that mixed up. But Scout being able to provide a lot of follow-up CC and great engaged setup alongside the Hecarim and the Alistar. I think they'll find comfort in these third dragon, fourth dragon fights. Going across the board to WE though, they are very much about abusing the lane power that they have in this Caitlyn. Viktor as well can do very well into things like this Orianna as well. You manage to outrange her, you can get a lot of push and still be able to poke her from afar. So certainly I think and especially as we can see there, the Time Warp Tonic picked up as well. Shanks will be able to help out that bottom lane a lot.
We are on to the Rift. Game one of this best of three between Team WE and Edward Gaming. The sky is very much set up for Team WE. Of course, we are in their home stadium in Xi'an. Fantastic reboot of a stadium. No live crowd there just yet, but fantastic nonetheless. And for Team WE to kind of go back to what we were talking about, kind of how important it is. But for this organization, it's been so long. It's been so long since we've seen Team WE rubbing shoulders with the top brass of the LPL.
And I think honestly for the legacy that both these teams have, to now have them pushing back to the top, it feels like a homecoming. when you want EDG, and as Clearlove nearly coming into the roster as well, WE now finding a lot of success with Breathe coming in, Shanks being moved up from their academy roster as well. Like, this was what we really hoped to see from these teams, and it's given such a new breath of fresh air to rosters that really needed it.
So a quick look down by the runes. We actually see the lethal tempo here for Jiumeng. So not going for the fleet footwork, which we used to have seen of like pure lane bully, keep the sustain, push it in as far as you possibly can. Going for something more of a team fight orientated kind of I'm going to burn somebody down kind of setup. And honestly, I quite like that. Again, harping back to what we were talking about right at the top of the show, it's that these are team fighting teams. These are objective focused teams that really want to try and make things happen for them after the kind of, 5-6 minute mark.
And honestly, you just don't get a chance to trade as Viper here, especially as you can see the Guardian on Missing. Missing just plays keep away from Meiko. If you're quick enough with the Flay, you can stop those engages as well from the Alistar. And as well, like, Jiumeng, he just has nearly, well, not quite double, but like, he's got a lot of range on Viper when it comes to things. And he's already started to bully him. Now, Beishang, I like this moving in, realizing, hey, look, I just beat this Hecarim, so I can try and go for these aggressive plays, play off the pressure we got on top side, but it's actually going to be Flandre who moves first.
Yeah, watch the lanes. You can see Flandre and Scout both try to move in, and that Meiko taking so low, needs to be so careful. But now, with Scout coming in, this is a 2v2. The jungle mid duo is coming onto this. Beishang may be forced to flash very soon. The gravity field came down as Jiejie did pop the ghost. Beishang flashes. It's a ghost for a flash. That's a win for Jiejie.
Big win for Jiejie, and the fact that he managed to get all that without actually burning like mana or health gives him so much control. So he just goes back towards his red. He's going to be able to finish his full clear, whereas Beishang's the one that slowed down. And honestly, I think Beishang didn't need to go for this engage. We just talked about Jiumeng and Missing being able to support this bot side. Beishang could have just gone down, played off of this pressure, got this bot scuttle vision for the bot lane of WE, but unfortunately for it, burns his flash now on the back foot, and will be forced to try and go into a full clear rather than protect the bot lane.
I was just about to say, like, you're looking at this, yes, you lose your flash, but you now have full information that Jiejie's top side. You have nothing to fear here if you're on the bot lane of WE, so Jiumeng and Missing getting a plate before 4 minutes just shows you how powerful this Caitlyn pick can be, and honestly, it's going to be those little mini things that pop out, those little mini advantages. The inch that turns into a mile, that's what's going to be the difference
and
here.
The inch that turns into... Oh, Shanks. That was definitely a misclick.
Misclick.
Yeah, because, I mean, so I'll come back to my point in a second, but for the real pressure for Shanks was actually when he hits the level 6, because you can have Scout go for the shockwave, set up for the Hecarim gank, and it becomes really difficult for this Viktor to deal with. Now not having flash amps that up. But I want to go back to your point on the inch into a mile for bot lane. It is going to be these dragons that we're talking about once again. We brought it up how important these are. When Jiumeng has full pressure in this bot side and he's poking Viper underneath the tower, harassing every CS, you have the tempo advantage. Do I want to back now so I can go towards these early dragons? Fantastic, let's go for it. Am I just able to force Viper for inopportune timings on backings? Even better.
I think the nerves are kind of getting to a couple of these players here. We're seeing a couple of small, shaky mistakes here, and I'm not going to try and overanalyze them and say that, oh, because of this, because of that. It just feels like nerves. Flash by Shanks on the top side. Flandre going a little too far in his jump and recognizing he's a little bit of trouble. But as I say that, flash in from Meiko, they are going to be able to get Jiumeng out, though, without him using his flash. So nice mitigation of the pressure, but good opportunity there from Jiejie to try and find something.
Nice attempt, and especially as we talked about for Jiejie, he just knows, hey, look, why set Beishang behind early because he couldn't get my red? Cool, Beishang has to go for full clears. He'll be back on that top side. I can then go for this play on the bot side and try and relieve a bit of pressure, give Viper the opportunity to back, but Beishang once again in a bad spot.
Well, in a bad spot, not in any real danger. Was trying to just kind of capitalize on the fact that he'd just seen Jiejie bot side. Wasn't really able to find much from it. And we actually see now Flandre and Breathe kind of bullying each other out.
Oh, this is actually really cool. So Jiejie skipped the Wolves, went to Raptors, realizing that Beishang would be on the Raptors. This now gives him the opportunity, if he wants to come back in towards this bottom side. But as you can see, Viper and Meiko have already backed, so he won't do so. But it's a little bit inefficient, but it makes sure that Jiejie keeps the entirety of his camps and stops Beishang getting these big leads.
Tense is probably the word I would use right now between these two sides, both wanting to try and make an advantage, and you can see a tiny little bit here eking out from pretty much the side of TWE. It's pretty much all on that bot side. It's the CS lead they've accrued for themselves between the Caitlyn Thresh against the Kaisa and the Alistar, and right now this is where we can kind of maybe see Team WE try and up the tempo, up the gears a little bit. You know, like you said, you have pressure in this bot side. As I say that, Jiejie going to use the Ghost, not really able to make anything out of it. Again, a little preemptive there. You don't need to use the Ghost that quickly.
I actually don't mind the Ghost. It's just that ward was so unfortunate. So basically Scout had just enough mana for a Shockwave. They're hoping Jiejie could get in, get the Shockwave, so that then you put Shanks in behind the Hecarim, knock back into Meiko, who was in position as well, and I was trying to abuse the tiny little window that they had.
Oh, flash, Shockwave, knocked in. That's what you were talking about. First blood goes the way of EDG, but the first dragon goes in favor of Team WE. They're going to use the Onslaught of Shadows to see if you can get anything else going for them. Meiko is here, though. They have got a little bit of movement to kind of go for. Jiejie with 2 kills. Yes, they lose the objective, but they gain the goal.
This is so good from EDG. So the reason Meiko was able to be in position first versus missing was that bot lane play from Jiejie. They get the push out. Meiko gets the quicker reset, and he's like, look, WE have stuck around too long. I can now have more of an impact towards mid, potentially on the spot side as well, as Jiumeng takes a lot of damage, but gorgeous timing window exploited by EDG. Really well played.
And this is, again, inches that turn into miles. You gain a little bit of push priority in that bot side. That turns into a quicker rotation, turns into 2 kills, turns into a little bit of extra gold, 1,000 gold lead, or just a little bit under it for EDG. But Team WE, they're no slouches. They did trade the dragon, and honestly, this was just very clean, constant execution.
And it was Missing trying to help out. He was like, look, Meiko's already got here. I need to make sure I'm here to support Shanks. No funny shenanigans come around. And it meant that he actually got caught out, not realizing just how much vision, as you can see there, EDG actually have in that river. And now that Jiejie has 2 kills on towards this Hecarim, it becomes really difficult for Beishang to try and fight toe-to-toe. You're very quickly working towards the chem tank. Jiejie has access to the Onslaught of Shadows. His lane pressure and his gank ability goes up 10-fold now that he's got that. And suddenly it becomes way more difficult for Jiumeng to play in on this bottom side without all the pressure that would have been offered if WE played out the early game.
Supports are late on this rotation, but I will say Viper can't join. Jiumeng is on the way. We are seeing the Rift Hell being taken, but EDG do not want this one to go down for free. Onslaught of Shadows is there for Jiejie should he want to use it. Viper is not moving, so I think EDG, yeah, they're recognizing they just need to keep Viper on the right trail, need to keep him from going too far behind this Caitlyn. Give up the Rift Herald, we can maybe fight at the next dragon.
You say that, but it's too little too late. They've already fallen behind, because that Rift Herald, it's going bot lane. You've only got 3 plates left in this bot lane turret. You can already see the pings are there, like, lads, you know this is happening. Because what you want to do right now as WE is take bot lane structure, rotate Jiumeng top, continue this pressure, because even if it's just Flandre who stays in that top lane, you've still got the same pressure when it comes towards the range discrepancy between the side laners. So now, as EDG, you got to try and figure out, all right, how do we maneuver enough people down to this bottom lane to dissuade this play?
Whoa! Missing, trying to see if Meiko's trigger finger was very much there, and he does pop his box though, so doesn't have that ultimate cooldown. Jiejie says hello, walks on by, and gets himself back towards this bot side, because he knows, like you said, he knows that the jungler is going to be bot lane, and he needs to be there to support.
And that's what it is. It's trying to unlock Scout from this mid lane, buy him a little bit of time, but with that, Beishang's like, no, we're not going to try and crash this big wave and find this opportunity now, and instead, Jiumeng are missing back, so they reset, but now it's about trying to find another wave where WE can make this play on the bottom side.
Well, Shanks has got a pony behind him, so he needs to be a little bit careful. Has no real vision of this, and this is going to be the Ghost pop. Shanks has got the Onslaught Shadows right on top of him. He flashes away. Shockwave, though, is going to be just as good to keep him dead. 0-3, EDG starting to get a couple of kills racking up for themselves.
And it's just really nice timing again. Like, you can see that Meiko, before he actually... Sorry, Meiko has looked and gone, right, Jiumeng and Missing, they backed. I don't need to recall right now. I can go and make this play mid. And unfortunately for Missing, he's just not having the same impact as Meiko. And you can see the veterancy that Meiko has brought is really paying dividends for EDG.
But not only that, I think Meiko's just recognized, it's like, I'm not really that useful here in this bot side. Kaisa's not going to die if I'm not here, so I'm going to make plays everywhere else. And as I say that, bot lane looks like it's going to be the play. They actually get the TP coming in as well. So, good play to keep everybody away. Scout does not have his shockwave, and that means that that teleport's a little bit scuffed. You can see now WE, they're the ones pushing forwards. They're the ones that have the initiative. And I feel like the idea was there from EDG, but they just kind of forgot. No Onslaught of Shadows, no Shockwave. You can't really keep them clumped together.
Yeah, they were trying to abuse the fact Shanks is just TP mid to go, okay, maybe we can find this opportunity for Scout to teleport bot and find the plays. A good slow might have given the opportunity, but as we just praised, Meiko jumps forward that little bit too soon, and now is that Rift Herald timing that we were talking about given to WE by EDG.
Yeah, 30 seconds until this Mountain Drake does spawn. It would be the second of the game for the side of WE. Ignite goes down onto Jiumeng, so that's a summoner down for him. And this is the power you get with something like Thresh, to be able to throw out the Lantern. But Scout and Jiejie are coming back, and this time they are far more equipped to be trying to go for something a little bit more aggressive. They have got both top laners with TPs, so Breathe trying to see if he can keep Flandre down, but with the grasp, that Gnar is just so irritating.
It sucks for WE though, because they didn't get that tower, they don't get the reset in, and they can't contest for this dragon, so EDG making plays.
Yeah, they're going to go for the exact same play once again. The Shockwave comes in, Onslaught of Shadows. Yes, he used 2 ultimates, but Shanks is dead. Now, Beishang trying to see if he can make something go in his bot side. Flashes in to get the
beautiful
cleanse. Frame, perfect. But is it enough? Meiko taking so much punishment right now, and the rest of EDG are now kind of coming in. WE, you've wasted almost everything you possibly have to try and make this one work for yourself. Flashes burn, they do get the death sentence, and Jiejie gets the kill onto the Caitlyn. Mystic will also go down. It's 0-6, it's a 2,000 gold lead, and Dragon is up for EDG.
That is so well played. EDG make the play mid, get that play bot. I am going to highlight Viper when we get this replay up, because that was beautiful. But EDG, they're just running away with this game.
They are starting to really rack up those advantages, and they stop the Dragon stacking. That is no longer a win condition for Team WE. It's going to be too far into the future. And now Breathe, you're in a little bit of trouble. Does get the dominance pop of Flandre, almost going into Mega. He walks into the boomerang, and I think that this is going to be all she wrote for Breathe. He might have to try and flash. Oh, nicely done. Flandre has no flash of his own now as Beishang finds himself up in topside. Can he make anything really happen here? No disengage here for the top laner of EDG, but he does have the hop to get himself out. And again, EDG, they commit, but they don't give up any advantages.
Yeah, I mean, very close from Flandre being able to kill Breathe there. And honestly, I'm not surprised. Flandre's been playing exceptionally, but here we go.
Here we go. They do have themselves on top of Jiumeng, and there's a plethora of awards jump down there as well. 0-7. EDG are just telegraphed exactly what Team WE want to do, and they are punishing them.
And now you get to answer back. You get all this turret play going over to Viper. You get the gold and missing. Look, he's just going to walk away from this, but you can already see the cracks in WE have been exposed, and EDG are doing such a wonderful job of shutting down this early game plan from WE.
Honestly, it's just been like Team WE opened up a book and EDG just read it. That there's nothing else really to kind of say for it. They've just been at the play before them every single time.
And remember what we were talking about, right? You brought it up beautifully as Champ Select Penguin, that Caitlyn is a champion that requires this gold to bypass that not so hot mid game that she has. Now, Gale Force and that kind of stuff has kind of helped that, but certainly she's not going to have the same impact as this Kaisa in these mid game team fights. Now that you're stopping that early gold from happening, you're not able to transition Caitlyn to other places to work on this turret plate gold as well. You are super far behind. So now when we look at the mid-game, Kraken Slayer completed for Viper. Orianna has got 3 kills. Scout is so accelerated that very quickly Andrew's Anguish is going to be coming through, and it's going to make things a living hell for WE in these mid-game fights.
I got to give props to Jiejie right now. The guy has just been running circles around Beishang. He's just been in most of the lanes, if not all of them. Has been really making a difference to his laners and making absolutely fantastic moves for him. So props to him. Really do need to kind of shout his praise. And now they can be the ones that get the Rift Herald. They do rotate a couple of people over for it. Does like Team WE want to try and maybe go for something here, but it's so risky.
They're going to move away. There's not a hope. I mean, even look where Shanks is, no TP on the bottom side of the map. You're not going to go for it. And yeah, I agree with you, Penguin. Like, JJ's living in Beishang's head rent-free right now. The early game pathing, able to cop on that, hey, look, Beishang's going to go for the Vade. This has been classic Beishang in these matchups where he has the Udyr, knows he can duel the opponent 1v1. We then see the smart pathing where he bypasses the Wolves to go to contest Raptors alongside Scout. Like, he's just been doing such a good job of reading Beishang step by step. And when we mentioned, hey look, Beishang needs to play around bot side, he's just not getting the opportunity because Jiejie's giving himself these little advantages, which he's gifting towards Viper and Meiko in the bot side.
It's been a fantastic first 16 minutes, if I'm being totally honest, for EDG and for Team WE. They're not out of it yet. You know, they're only 2,500 gold lead down. It is not insurmountable or unsurmountable. It is definitely something they can come back into. But I want to ask you, how? How do they come back? How do they look to try and maybe get back some of this gold deficit that they've eked out?
Well, what they really need to do is try and find some opportunity to go and get an early recall in here. So I usually look at about a minute and a half. It's like, okay, have we gone for the resets? Now, obviously, not getting a chance as the Rift Heralds pop down, but maybe they can look for early objective fights. However, this is just EDG going, hey, look, we are just stronger. We're going to bully you out of this mid lane.
And they're actually going to get the full charge now from the Rift Herald onto that tier 2. So that mid lane has been cracked open. They only have one turret, but it is the most important turret. Yes, you got the bot lane tier 1 here for Team WE taken down, but it is not as important or as valuable as the tier 1 in mid lane. It just opens up so much of that jungle, so much of the map gets opened up here now for EDG. They can start to really push their vision control.
And the big thing here for EDG is like you're hitting all these crucial item points. Like the Serrated Dirk is about to come in for Viper, forgot the name of that. Serrated Dirk is coming in, means that now you actually even the Lord Dominic's is going to come through, and it just means that. Not Flandre?
No, Flandre does not have flash, and they have a lot of damage to try and burst him down, but a TP here from Scout and Shro being here. Shockwave means that they're just throwing they're throwing Breed to the wind, and that is going to be another quick kill. Good, quick reactions here from the side of EDG. Is just keeping Team WE guessing because they just don't know.
But I mean, EDG are just reading them better. Now, Jiumeng.
No. This is where the game starts to run away. This is where EDG start to turn around and say, hey, we are the better team.
And this is what I wanted to point out with Viper completing that last Whisper. He now gets the upgrade that comes through from his Q, so you can see how much burst damage he has. And when Jiejie is able to run down members of WE, despite the safety of the Lantern, you've got Viper to follow up. They're able to finish them off. Top Tower, gone. Dragon, gone. This game, out of the hands for WE.
Yeah, honestly, it was only 2,000, 2,500. Now it's about 4,500, if not 3. So it's, 5, excuse me. So it's about 5,000 gold. It's just pretty much doubled in the space of 2 plays. And this is where we start to look at it. Like, this is a bit of a desperation play coming in from Team WE. They want to try and make something go, but they're just not respecting cooldowns.
To be honest, I actually think this is your best play for WE. Because you know EDG are going to be looking towards that dragon on the bottom side. We just said the Andrew's Anguish finished. The last Whisper completed. Like, you cannot fight EDG right now. So WE are like, right, we'll make the play on the opposite side of the map. It just doesn't work. Because again, EDG are reading them. They're like, hey, look, Meiko, we don't really need you for this dragon. We are so far ahead right now. You go up and protect Flandre from that counter play. And they read it beautifully. Set that up. TP comes in from Scout. It's more gold, more pressure. And as well, when you look at like Shanks say in this regard, he's got this super long extended side lane where he doesn't really want to be because he's so vulnerable towards like Jiejie coming in. You've got Jiumeng who would love to be taking pop shots at these towers, but he's got to shove all the way up that mid lane before he even can touch on towards that tower. And honestly, it's WE. You don't get to bypass river. That's where the danger zone is.
Yeah, the big issue right now for Team WE, we talked about how Viktor and Caitlyn are fantastic at controlling an area and making it very, very difficult for you as an opposition team to walk into them. You don't get that luxury anymore. You don't get the time or the space to set up those kind of those set plays, if you will. And that is just going to make this, this Viktor and this Caitlyn pick just so less valuable when you go into those later stages. Now, obviously, they will both become wave clear and one-shot potential monsters, but you are 20-odd minutes away from that point of 4 or 5 items, and that's where EDG can really start to put the pressure down, keep the foot on the pedal, and make this a very, very big statement game to say, hey, we are the second best team in the entire league.
Well, it's certainly looking that way right now. I mean, look at the scores. 3-0-4 for Jiejie, 4-0-3 for Scout. The 9 stacks on the Magi Soul Stealer already. And as well, like, obviously it was talked a lot when it comes out. That Magi Soul Stealer counts as a legendary item. It gives you the extra ability haste that you get off of the Andrew's Anguish. So it's just working out very, very well for EDG at the moment.
Now, we'll see now. Baron has spawned. We're at 21 minutes or just under it. And you can see now EDG starting to roll around with this 3-man death squad, which was at first completely confined to mid lane, and now with mid lane down, they can go wherever the hell they please. As we said, the pressure you're able to garner by taking down that first tier 1 in that mid lane is absolutely huge for whoever team gets it. But TWE, they're no slouches. Yes, they are 5,000 gold behind. They are definitely not in a unwinnable position. It will take a couple of mistakes from EDG. It will definitely maybe take a flash of brilliance for Team WE, but there are moments where they might be able to come into it. So you now have 2 items onto Caitlyn, you have all your summoners, they might look to try and just go for a team fight somewhere.
It does become difficult though, because as you can see, this 1-4 from EDG is really hard to break. Like, if you try to move in towards Baron, you're moving through these tight corridors where you can have very easily this dive composition set up beautifully, like big shockwaves, big onslaught of shadows, whereas Flandre is just in full control of this bot side. But he can't really do anything.
3,000 on the Baron. They are going to get the TP coming in as well. They bragged off it. That's all WE wanted. That's all they cared about. They got the TP. That was really nicely played by them. But honestly, a little bit of a over-eagerness there from EDG. You lose a teleport. You lose a lot of health bars. You don't really gain anything.
Yeah, they needed to bait them in further. I can understand, as we said, like the zone control from WE is terrifying. So if you end up stuck in the pit and there's the missings in the right spot, you're able to get these big, the gravity field down in front of that Baron pit entrance. Makes it really hard for EDG to operate. But honestly, you still needed to bait that a bit further, get some better wards controls, so Flandre could actually find flank opportunities, not just TP in front of their face, and WE goes, okay, cool, I'm out.
Yeah, they a little bit quick on the trigger, despite Trigger playing for a different team. And EDG, breathe, why are you here, my friend? You are far, far, far too far pushed up. And that is going to be a pretty easy kill. Shockwave comes down, they still have the Onslaught of Shadows if they so choose to use it. And just before Dragon is spawning, that's just straight up a mistake from Breathe. You should never be there. Jiumeng, they could have went in on that if he really was feeling it from Viper, but no, that's just inexcusable.
We've talked about this, Breeze. Where's your safe place?
Yeah.
Your safe place is anywhere before River.
Yep.
Once you get to River, that's the danger zone. You don't want to go into the danger zone. You just stay the hell away from that. But EDG do a really nice job to punish, and as you said, the Dragon will be the prize as a result. So now, that sole point for EDG. 5 minutes until you are looking down an Ocean Soul for EDG, and when they are so far ahead, and WE find it already entirely difficult to contest anything in this bottom side jungle, it becomes really easy for EDG to sweep that up when we get to the right time.
For Team WE, you're waiting for 3 items. You're waiting for Jiumeng to get his 3 items, waiting for Shanks to get his 3 items, and like I said, you know, obviously it wasn't the original game plan, but it kind of becomes it now. You're looking for Breed to get a good flank to catch out someone on EDG.
I agree, but the thing is, they also need that vision control. Remember what we pointed out at the start of the game? If you have EDG can set up multiple different flank angles with Flandre, honestly, probably the best flanker that we have in the league, if he's given the opportunity to get multiple different routes on towards WE. Same when you look at Jiejie, it becomes very, or Meiko even as well, it becomes very difficult for WE to set up that zone control properly and actually deal with EDG. Otherwise, EDG just take full control of your bottom side jungle, or even top side now for Baron, and then they can operate fully in the dark in this river and make it impossible for WE to contest.
Well, they got a hook down. They also got the trap as well. Not going to need the Dark Passage just yet, but there is some pretty decent lockdown here. Single target, to be more specific here, from Team WE. If they do catch out someone like Viper, they get his cleanse out of him. It will be immediately followed up by some kind of Morph CC on top of him. It becomes very difficult for him to get away, but Baron has now been started. They have a ward.
Watch Flandre.
Flandre is going to get Mega pretty damn soon. Looks like Beishang is going to walk in. This is where you kind of go for it. 6,000 HP, 5,000 HP. 4,000. Baron now, do you turn off? They're going to try and go for both. It's a bit of a split call, and they don't really get the purchase they wanted. They go back onto the Baron. It's down to about 1,300 HP. Beishang, Shockwave lands on the 2. Scout, though, very, very low. He might be taken down. The Baron's down to about 450 HP. It will go down to EDG, but they have to get themselves out. They lose 2. They gain the Baron, but they lose 2 more, and now the map kind of belongs to Team WE.
And that was the problem that we pointed out with EDG's late game team fighting. Meiko and Flandre not synchronizing well. Meiko goes one way, Flandre goes the other, and although they do get the Baron, WE get the fight. They're getting gold back in their favor, and a lot of control in this map that they need for that vision.
Yeah, you don't really have Engage right now unless you want to go in with the Onslaught of Shadows, which is off cooldown, so you can't really get it. So You lose the mid lane tier 1. Yes, you still get the Baron. It is still a positive for your team, but you're going to lose so much time with it now. They were pretty much going to be waiting. Once this Baron comes off, the next big fight in 2.5 minutes, which is going to be that Ocean Soul.
And this is the thing, right? So now, as you said, like for EDG, you're trying to get your lanes back in order. You're trying to find an opportunity to shove in. Now, the Baron will help because of how long we have until Dragon, but certainly that mid lane tower goes down, make it a little bit easier for WE to shove up aggressively. They can then teeter off in towards the river and get some vision control for themselves, and then it becomes a little bit easier for them to contest on towards this next Dragon objective. Good news for them, at least when you're EDG fans, is those 3 items have just been finished. But rewatch this fight here, right? Meiko goes in towards Beishang, whereas Flandre commits towards Shanks. Shanks gets over the wall, but that's all the engage down. Like, you've nothing left in the tank. Viper's left to try and finish off this Baron by himself instead of committing. It's split calls, split fight, just really, really messy stuff from EDG.
Honestly, they could have gone a lot worse. Viper stops trying to go for the team fight and immediately goes, this Baron's down to about 300 HP. I need to finish this right now. They still have about a minute or so, a little bit more than that, on this Baron buff. So they're going to push in and get themselves a tier 2 in that bot side. Do they go for a little bit more? They actually are going to be able to get down this inhibitor turret pretty low, if not completely down. Jiejie goes down and tries to get himself a little bit more. Meiko, though, needs to be so careful. Those Yordle snap traps are really going to start hurting right now because you have 3 items onto your Caitlyn. She's going to start melting health bars with the Kraken Slayer along with the Lord Dominic's Regards. So you have to be respectful for the zone control. Yes, you crack open the base. Fantastic news for them. But a minute's time, you cannot make a mistake. You need to get this Ocean Soul.
Yeah, but I mean, look, EDG have already won this Ocean, so the vision is fully in their favor. Trying to walk in blind here as WE is a death sentence. Good flash coming through from Meiko onto a shockwave into an onslaught of shadows. Just ends it. That game right there.
She'll see Beishang just kind of pushing forward. We talked about this in our last series. Udyr, one of the few people, once he has at least 2 items on him, he can just run in and kind of, relatively speaking, keep himself safe to try and get himself into a position to, you know, face check or to keep himself at least in the know. As EDG, they get 2 resets off. And the Hecarim just prancing up, trying to keep as much damage as he possibly can down. But Beishang feeling brave, feeling confident, knowing that he's probably not going to walk into 5 people.
Yeah, they're trying to call the bluff here. They kind of were like, hang on a second, Jiejie's kind of posturing, but not really, because Meiko and Viper weren't there. Now they are, though, and that's the engage.
There we go. We're going to see they're going to jump straight in on top of Breed. Gets jumped on as he tries to get on top of Viper, but he is dead. Now, can you take down the pony? No, he canters himself out of this fight. Viper jumps in with the killer instinct to try and get himself out. Nice knockback, but these health bars are so low. Can Jiumeng pop off? The exhaust goes down onto Viper, but it's all Viper, it's all Scout, and it's all EDG. They take the ace clean as you like, and they will take this game 1.
It's all over, Penguin. Beautiful fight from EDG, and as we said, being able to control that vision, deny WE access to the river, and EDG can find the fight and close out game number 1.
Dominating, controlled, and just honestly so clean. EDG give up 2 kills, a dragon and 3 turrets in their absolute stomp of Team WE in 29.5 minutes, and that was a statement.
That was beautiful from EDG. I loved everything about it. Oftentimes when you get these like super simple game plans like WE had coming into it, it can work very well if you're able to play towards it. But with EDG realizing, hey look, you know, Beishang makes that early flub where he tries to invade onto red, doesn't actually manage anything because he gets spotted out by a really clever ward placement from EDG. EDG know they have the lead. They know they can invest that little bit of time advantage that they picked up into that bot lane, turn it all back around, stop the bleed. And then as WE, you're just kind of like, well, what do we do now? Our Caitlyn is still stuck in this bottom side. She's not snowballing in the way that this Caitlyn needs to. And EDG's mid-game team fight just took an absolute turn in this game and sent it all EDG's way.
Yeah, honestly, I think, as you said, like, EDG just knew what they needed to do, knew where they needed to be. And TWE were just left floundering. They didn't know where they wanted to go. They didn't know how to make any kind of move. And again, massive props to Jiejie, because Jiejie was just... insane in terms of how he just, again, like you said, living rent-free in Beishang's head. We were just hyping up how good Beishang has looked all split long, and he didn't have a look in this game.
Yeah, Jiejie played this excellently, and honestly, I think he should be MVP. I don't want to get a vote, but I honestly think that he was. The way he was able to read those early plays, catch out Beishang, and also then to just keep himself safe, because you could see Beishang was trying to abuse this Hecarim Udyr matchup, but Jiejie just never gave him the opportunity, with Scout and Flandre constantly there to protect him on the top side.
Can't say much more than that. I think EDG just looked like the far and away better team at the end of the day. 29 minutes and 21 seconds. Like, this is the EDG we saw at the start of the split. This is the EDG that we were so happy with, because it just looked like they were indomitable. They looked like they could not be stopped. Now, obviously, they had a little bit of a lull there in the middle of the split, but it seems like they're back on form. And Team WE, they got to come up with something different. I feel like the Hecarim is just too powerful to be given over to, right now to the EDG.
Honestly, I think this was less to do with the picks and just more so with the execution from WE and from EDG. So I think, honestly, if Beishang had just kind of gone for a regular clear, supported Jiumeng and missing on that bottom side, maybe we would have had a very different game. But even when we saw the Rift Tower going down, holding onto that bot lane turret by the skin of their teeth, did EDG, then they were able to turn that into dragons. It all kind of came together. But I do agree. I think as WE, I kind of go, right, why are we trying to put all of our eggs in this early game basket? We can see the errors in EDG's team fights where Flandre and Meiko not really synchronizing properly. Like, you can see that's the team fight that WE actually turn around at Baron, and even Viper's kind of like, let's Baron, what are we doing here? So I think if that's the case, go towards those fights. Try and punish EDG in that respect.
Well, we'll see if they are able to, or if EDG will continue their rampage of this series. We're going to send it to a quick break. When we return, Game 2, picks and bans will be right around the corner.